Hi, everybody. Thank you again for tuning in to our 2021 March book launch. My name is Jim Howard. I'm the publisher for Morgan James Publishing, and today I'm really excited. We've got one of our amazing authors who I'm going to introduce you to right now, and I can't wait to see what we talk about today and just introduce you to this amazing book. So today with us, we have Kevin Jack, and Kevin is the author of Rebuilding Your Faith, even when you're not even when you're unsure. I want to say that right. Even when you're unsure how it fell apart. So Kevin, thank you for taking the time today to join us on the call.
Thanks, Jim. I'm excited to be here. I'm excited for all that's happening at this time of year.
Oh man, and this is such an amazing topic because it's a very important topic. But people are losing faith in a lot of different aspects.
Mhm.
So why do you think people are walking away from their faith?
Yeah. Well, on the surface, for 1,000 different reasons, like people would say, well, this belief or this experience or this crisis. But one of the central metaphors that we use in the book is we use the idea of a Lego set.
Mm.
As we talk about the Lego set, so what happens is I have four small kids, and so I have done far more Legos than I would have liked in my life. And eventually I'll put a piece in the wrong place. I'll put something where it wasn't supposed to be. I blame the directions. My kids blame me. That's perfectly fine. But then I don't realize it until a couple steps later. And what happens is when I get a couple steps later and I realize I put the piece in the wrong place, I go back in the instructions and realize, hey, where I was off, I disassemble the set and then I can put the right piece in place.
Mm.
And what happens, unfortunately, in faith is we get pieces in the wrong place. Is there's beliefs that are off. One of the simplest ideas is as a kid, you're taught God answers every prayer.
Yeah.
And you think that's a yes or no. And then all of a sudden you realize there's a multitude of different responses. And so we get pieces in the wrong place. But the problem is we don't have an instruction manual to go back and say, you need to disassemble to this point and then place this right belief in place. And so what people invariably do is they just start tearing everything apart.
Mm.
And instead of going back to where they needed to deconstruct to the point and then reconstructing from there, they just begin tearing everything apart. And eventually you're left with nothing.
Mm.
And people will wake up one day and realize, oh, I don't have any faith. Like my faith is gone, and then not know what to do with it from there.
It's a scary place to be at times for sure,
Yeah.
especially when you're uncertain on how to go about rekindling or rebuilding or even reinstituting some of that. So why does it matter that they're walking away?
So I'm a pastor. So I mean, I believe there's an eternal component to this that
Mhm.
really, really matters. But I believe also that there's some really like functional, practical pieces. And so one of the things I'm actually giving a message at our church coming up on this idea. Okay, so it's fresh on my head. But we always I don't think we fully understand the way in which our beliefs and values are shaped together,
Mm.
that our values that we live by stand on the beliefs that we hold. And so let's take this really simple idea. As our society is becoming more secular, one of the predominant beliefs when we don't have a creator of the universe background is macro evolution at the
Mhm.
core. And what is a macro evolution is survival of the fittest. Now, here's the hard thing is we live in a society that says, a secular society that says you need to be kind, you need to love your neighbor, and I also believe in survival of the fittest. And like there's a hard thing of going, hey, eventually these two are going to come to a head. And we're going to go, hey, these don't fit together. This doesn't work. And so I think the implications of this are massive. So like from an eternal standpoint, yes, I care greatly that people are walking away from faith.
Mm.
But also on just like a really, really surface level of the world that we live in, love your neighbor and survival of the fittest cannot coexist as beliefs. And eventually that'll come to a head.
It's almost like taking those two Lego pieces and turning them knobs in and
Yeah.
trying to mesh them together. They just don't mesh.
It won't, and it's so funny to hear. I say funny, not in. I say funny in an terrible way, not a funny, like a, oh, I'm doubled over laughing way.
Yeah.
But it really is the way in which we live our lives, an inspection of the beliefs that led us to those lives. You look at it, you go, yeah, this is going to be a problem. And no one really sees that it's going to be a problem. And that's maybe even more of a problem.
Wow. Wow. So people get your book, they read the book, they start to understand, this issue of reconstructing the rubble. And I love that title because, I know that when we lose that part of ourselves, we end up into this,
Yeah.
area that we don't know how to handle. And oftentimes it leads to devastation and destruction. But what do you hope that people will get out of the book? What's the main message you hope they take away from this?
Yeah. My real desire in writing it. So when I wrote it, I'm really thrilled with how it came out in terms of size and length. It's not a, there's a lot of important ideas in there, but it's not a heavy read. I wanted
Mm.
when people picked it up to go, oh, I can read this and not feel intimidated by it in any way. My goal was to give people language and a framework for understanding how faith is deconstructed, how faith is lost, and how faith is rebuilt.
Mm.
And I'd hear a lot of people, they'd use this language and they'd say, oh, I lost my faith. And it was almost like faith was this like magical thing that was within them at one point in time, and now it was taken away. And so I wanted to be able to follow up that question with a how. Like, how did you lose your faith? What were the circumstances that led to that? And what would it take to rebuild it? And I think that's one of the most isolating things about losing faith, or having someone close to you who's lost their faith, is we don't know how to navigate conversations around how it was lost and how it can be rebuilt. And so that's what I just really want. I want to give people a roadmap and some terminology to be able to go, this is how it's lost. This is how it's rebuilt. Now we can have real conversations about it and why it matters.
Mm. And I think for me, what an important time for this book to come out. We see so much going on in the world today, not just in the U.S., but if you see what's happened on a global scale. And I think that this is a time that people need to lean into faith more than ever before, for security, for all the reasons that faith is so important to all of us. And I also think I want to share this with the audience. This is a book for me. When I was reading this book and preparing to meet Kevin for the first time and talk about publishing the book, it really hit me that this is not just a book for those who have lost their faith. It's also a book for those of you who want to help someone who may have lost their faith and you don't know those words to say, or you don't know the answers to the questions. And Kevin has done such a wonderful job of building this book, as he said, in such a way. It's so easy to get into. It's so easy to find the truth. It's so easy to find the help you need or the help that you need to pass on to someone else. So I encourage all of you to grab a copy of this book, especially right now. Kevin, thank you for taking the time to write it and use your skill set and your knowledge to help people along this journey. I think it's an amazing book and one that I know is going to have a massive impact when people start to read it and digest it and leverage it.
Thank you, Jim. I appreciate that.
Absolutely. And thank you for taking the time today to talk with us. This is really exciting to see the book coming out. Now, the book is available everywhere that you want to buy books. So you guys who are watching this video right now, watching this interview, make sure you grab your copy. You can grab it anywhere online or off, any store that you usually would buy books at. Grab your copy. You can also go visit morganjamesbooklaunch.com for more information if you want to visit there. And make sure you do that today. It's a very important message for a very important time. And I think it's one that all of us need to read and understand. So Kevin, again, thank you for taking the time, my friend, to talk with me this morning and our group. Congratulations on, all your success to this point, and here's to more in the future.
Thank you very much. It's been a blast.
Awesome. And thank you guys for tuning in. And we'll see you on our next one.